everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. So the enlightened agent, and I really love this quote that I had found on here. The path to enlightenment is not a path at all. It's actually a metaphor for the time it takes for you to allow yourself to be happy with who you already are, where you are already at, and what you already have, no matter what. And Tom was just talking about that a few minutes ago when he gave it all away. This is a mastermind with other high-performing agents and seeing what they do differently. So a few courtesy things, reminders of the call to be kind and respectful, no recruiting. We have all different agencies represented here, and we want to honor that. Take notes, be engaged, ask questions, share your experiences that you think will help somebody else. And the goal of the mastermind is to bring in different speakers to speak on different things, their habits, their activities, their mindsets. At the end of our lives, we are an accumulation of our habits, our activities, and our mindsets. And so being that kind of person who wants to grow and learn and continue to adapt, right? Everybody on this call is not the same person they were a year ago, and you are not the same person you're going to be a year from now, right? We're constantly evolving. Today's intentions to understand perspective. When we can control our perspective, we can change who we are, how we show up, and the impact we have on the world around us. And listen to Tom's review of the attributes by Rich Diviney, his affirmation strategies, big whys, and asking why. So perspective defined. First of all, I am absolutely, completely, and totally intrigued with the power of perception. I'm always amazed at how, I came from a big family. We had 5 kids, plus usually anywhere between 2 and 15 other bonus children around. And we can all talk about the same Christmas or the same experience growing up. And every single one of us has a different perspective. One, it was the best Christmas ever. One, it was the worst Christmas ever. Another one doesn't even remember that Christmas. It's just, it's interesting how it's always different. Defined, it's a particular attitude toward a way of regarding something, a point of view, the way things appear to us. Today, perspective is used very much like standpoint. Just as standpoint once used to mean the physical place where you stand, but today also means the way you see things as a result of who you are and what you do, and the same could be said about perspective. Perceptions are a reality. I did this morning with our team. And went through these questions, and I was asking everybody these different questions. And what really stood out, you'll see like where I have it highlighted there, boy, did I start seeing repetition. I started to realize that every single one of us is quite the same. We all have this, a little bit of this negative loop of patterns going on in our head with the way we talk to ourselves and the way we perceive things and the way we measure ourselves. And so I was hearing a lot of I feels and this and I feel that. I feel more, I feeling broke, feeling like I'm not measuring up, feeling so behind. And there's a lot of like self-talk, a lot of words there that are really important on the way that we not only talk to ourselves, because how we talk to ourselves is always going to be reflected back in the rest of the world, right? So think about your perceptions, like reflect on the perception of who you are as an agent. And what that perception is to you is not necessarily going to be my perception or Elizabeth's perception or anybody else's perception. Think about who you are as a parent or a child, as a sibling, as a friend. Note your self-talk. When your feelings are always a coping mechanism of your ego. And I'm going to talk about ego in just a little bit here. But our ego is that fight or fight response thing that tries to help us make decisions, right? And so a lot of times those ways that we're talking about ourselves is kind of this protective, like fight or flight type response within our bodies that is helping us make decisions on our perceptions. It's to help us to keep from being hurt, right? How we feel about others is always a reflection about how we feel of ourselves. So I'm always interested, and I'm learning to do a much better job of this. If you're in a group of people and somebody starts saying, oh, so-and-so is blah, right? Or so-and-so is blah, blah. Or, boy, I went through that experience and it was blah. Or I saw that on TV and it was blah, blah. right? We all have this own perception of how we're viewing the world and people and all of that. And the only thing that can really change those perceptions truly is, well, let's move to the next one here. To change your feelings, you got to change your perspective, right? And the way you can change your perspective is what Tom's going to talk about in a little bit, is some affirmations. This is one of my favorite things ever. This is an old, I don't know if it's an old wives' tale or an old tale, but it's basically they took a bunch of blind men and brought them to an elephant, and they put one on the trunk, and he says, it's a snake. And they put one by the legs, and he's like, I think it's a tree. And another one by the tail. I think it's a rope. And another one by the, side of it. It's a wall, the ears. It's a fan. Another person had the tusks. It's a spear. Nobody was right. Nobody was wrong, right? We just all have different perspectives. This is one of the reasons why I really, really love working on as a team, because my perspective is sometimes so very skewed from Darcy's, like, whatever, all the trauma she's been carrying through her own life and the coping mechanisms that I've figured out of how to survive in this world, and just the way I view things sometimes. Sometimes I don't see things the way other people see things. And so, I might have a hold of, if it's me, I probably have the rear end by the rope, and somebody else has a little bit of grip on things, and so they're able to like give me their perspective and help me to understand. So 4 steps to changing your perspective. Number 1, the most important, is to stay curious. I have a thing on my wall in my home office, and it says, always have the curiosity of a 4-year-old child. It's like unbridled love and joy and hope and understanding. And like when we pass judgment or opinions on ourselves or other people on situations, we've stepped out of curiosity. So being self-aware of your level of judgment versus your level of curiosity in all conversations. And that takes a lot of like self-awareness, right? To stay curious. Remember, we're here to learn, right? This is our one and only, I believe, personally, I believe our one and only objective on this planet Earth is to learn, is to become better people. Find a mantra, and Tom's going to talk about this a little bit. I have just been preaching the crap out of this to our team. I've been using this so much in myself, on my own world. A simple phrase. So I was giving the example this morning of people going door knocking, right? And so we can have this mindset about door knocking, like, I really hate bugging people. I feel so awkward. I don't know what to say. I really hope they don't answer. I have literally said every one of those things myself 1,000 times. Or we can go up to that same set of doors and we can say, I am going to help somebody today. 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 And it is going to completely change the person that shows up on that doorstep. It is going to bring completely different energy to that conversation. You're going to come from a completely different place within yourself. Does anybody have a mantra that they've been using lately that works really well for them? I'd love to hear it.
Today is a good day. I have good energy.
I love it. Anybody else have one that they use? I took a couple of weeks off, and my sister was in the hospital and not doing well. And so now I've come back and I'm like overwhelmed with things I need to get done at work and things I need to do in my own personal business to pay my bills. And my rental properties all need to get ready for winter. And there's roofs that need to be put on and projects and ditches that need to be dug and all the stuff that I need to do before winter. And one thing I keep repeating to myself for the last few days when I come back to work is that everything that is important will get done today. Everything that is important will get done today. And the reality is the world itself is not going to change whether I get one thing done on that list or 150 things done on that list. The world is still going to change, keep turning in the same direction, right? But how I talk to myself matters. Note your ego. Are you showing up with the way your coping mechanisms have trained you to, or the way you really want to be? Look at yourself in the third person with compassion. One of the things that I really love about my team is they're really good at calling me out if my video does not match my audio. And everybody knows there's nothing more irritating this entire world than watching a movie where the video doesn't match the audio. And it's the same thing in real life, right? So probably about a week or two ago, somebody pulled me aside and said, hey, you were having some negative self-talk. You know, you were saying, and what I was saying is, yes, I know things are a shit show, right? And I have used that word a lot in my life because, and guess what? Guess who steps into that, right? With full costume. Yeah, full like garb, sparkles, feathers, boas, like I step into the shit show parade, right? However, when you change your self-talk and you're like, you know what, actually, we have some pretty great systems and processes and things are going really well. And I'm really proud of the way everybody's been showing up. It lays a different foundation. So, you know, you keeping that ego in a spot where it's humble enough to keep learning and realize like we don't have it all quite figured out yet, right? And forgiving yourself. Like we are human beings. We're going to screw up literally every single day for the rest of our lives, and we're supposed to. That's how we learn. We don't learn when everything goes great. Nobody does. We learn when things get complicated, right? Um, so ego gets kind of misconstrued in today's world. A lot of people, when they think of ego, they think of the person with the big head and is so full of themselves. And, you know, and that's really kind of a societal thing that we've kind of gotten this little skew, and what ego really is and how we tend to perceive it are actually two different things. So ego is an organized conscious mediator between a person and their reality. It's typically developed when we're 2 to 3 years old. So I don't know what your lives were like when you were 2 to 3, but mine was, well, probably a little bit of a shit show. So it's no wonder that I've come upon those wonderful phrases. Um, and it's formed by past experiences. Now, the difference between ego and higher self is higher self actually knows you can continue the formation of your ego simply by changing your self-talk. So this fight or flight, you know, once upon a time, this ego kept us out of the jaws of a tiger's mouth, right? The tiger's coming and ego was like, do I fight the tiger or do I run? And a lot of that is probably going to be on your past experiences with tigers. How many relatives were killed by a tiger? How many times did you see this in action? Maybe you had a really brave dad who taught you how to fight and fight against that tiger, right? Like it's all these different experiences, and we still use these same things when we look at why we don't want to go jump on the phones and do lead generation, when we don't want to have a tough conversation with somebody that we care about, when we are trying to figure out what our goals are and somebody says, do you want me to hold you accountable? And we're like, oh, fight or flight, fight or flight. I don't want somebody making me feel bad because I wasn't doing my stuff. It's like, I don't want accountability, because then I feel like I don't measure up here and I don't measure up anywhere, right? We get stuck in that fight or flight with our ego. So ego is saying, I am a victim of circumstance. And higher self says, I create my own reality. Ego says, I live in scarcity and there's never enough. And higher self says, I live in abundance and there's always enough. Ego says, I'm alive temporarily and that's scary. And higher self says, I'm alive temporarily and that's awesome. Ego says, I'm in competition with the world, or the world owes me. And higher self says, I'm in harmony with the world. Ego says, I can't tell you, it's complicated. And higher self says, I'm pretty happy. Is anybody comfortable talking about an experience where they've had maybe a little bit of a self-actualization around this difference between kind of ego and higher self and our self-talk? Chatty, chatty group today. Chatty, chatty group. Give me some self-talk stories.
Well, I'm going to be talking in a minute, but this is the one that has just rung true. And the example that I gave earlier was I was reading this book, and one piece of something came out of it that I paid a lot of attention to it, and so I recorded myself saying these affirmations. And the first thing I said was, "Today is a good day. I have good energy," and I've listened to that every morning and every night. And on the very first morning, and ever since, I've had good energy. And so, I mean, other mornings, you just get up and you're like, oh, I just want to go to bed. If I didn't have to go face the demons or whatever, but I haven't had that. And it's just the magic of going from being the victim, being the, animal side versus the higher self side has been a big step for me. And it can be for you. But I mean, it was just a small thing, seemingly, but it's been absolutely huge.
I love that. Yeah, it's amazing how like those little teeny tiny tweaks to our daily habits can have literally monumental impacts. Mace, take it away.
Yeah, I just had a pretty humbling, it's not often that your humbling moments are also like humbling for the good, but without describing the whole long story, I basically made an assumption of somebody and about a situation, and then was completely humbled by it going in the exact opposite direction. And so just knowing that it was like a story I was telling myself, and therefore I had like perceived that's how that situation went, and that's what the consequences of that are going to be, you know, wipe my hands of it and move on. And it was me actually negatively thinking something was going to happen, and it humbled me, and it was actually something that turned out to be positive and the exact opposite of how I assumed it would go. And it was 100% my ego from past traumas with the same situation telling me like, oh nope, that's just going to end negatively, and you just gotta like, ignore it, total flight response, like pretend it didn't happen, move on, disassociate. And it's the real slap in the face that it actually was like the exact opposite. It was a really great experience. So that like just happened to me last week. So very relevant.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have me see any kind of little mantras or affirmations that you say that kind of help you?
I do, but my brain is so scattered that mine, like I have to have mine in the moment. Usually I get this moment of like when I'm like in moments of despair or in moments of chaos or in moments of like I just have to stop and tell myself what I need for that moment. I've noticed it's way easier for me than something that's like a stick all
Yeah.
because sometimes it's a work thing and I'm just like similar to yours, like everything that needs to get done will get done. Like there's no emergencies in real estate. I tell myself that one all the time with work. Um, and then there's another one, just when I just tell myself to breathe and to just step back. But what I really will say, ever since Rosie was born, I've been finding myself just taking moments to be like, wow, I really am grateful for my life right now.
Mm.
In the good moments and in the bad moment, like the struggling. I shouldn't even say bad, like when I'm just a little sleep deprived and a little bit overstimulated, but just feeling like I am really grateful for this time in my life right now. Um, so I've been thinking about that a lot.
Speaking of perspective, that's a beautiful one. For sure. Go ahead, Ethan.
Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. I think one thing, and it kind of going along with like this is like I always just tell myself like as humans, we kind of all in the end want the same things in life. And that's really helped me because, I like for the longest time I struggled with hearing the word no or, worrying about what other people thought of me. And eventually I just realized that we all just want the same things in life. We want to be loved and cared for and feel a sense of belonging. And so, for the longest time, it stopped me from like approaching people, talking to people, because I was like, well, they don't want to talk to me. They don't want to hear what I have to say. But we don't know that unless someone tells you they don't want to hear what you have to say. You can't just assume that of someone. And so, um, I guess that's one thing that I've been really telling myself, and it's helped me to get to know a lot more people, just even on a personal level, not just on like a professional or business level, but just to think like, well, even though we don't have crazy, in-depth conversations, eventually we could because, every time we do have a conversation, I get to know them a little bit more. I get to know them a little bit more, and they get to know me because I'm sharing my thoughts and my feelings. And eventually that person that isn't as talkative to everyone else, you're having great conversations with because you opened up to them and then they opened up to you. So you never know what can come about of just talking to someone and realizing that we're all just humans. We're all here for the same things.
Yeah, staying curious, stay out of judgment, right? And you know what happens when we assume, right? You grab the back end of the elephant. All right, my friend Tom. Tom's been in real estate for 10 years. He's on a constant mission to dive deep into his thoughts and seeks leverage ideas into actions and success. According to Strength Finders 2.0, his top strengths are WACSA, winning others over with woo,
That's right.
adaptability, communication, strategy, and activating. His big why is to empower people to overcome challenges and ignite growth, purpose, and success by helping others to know and engage their own strength. That's a really big why there, Tom. And you know what I love about this? You put your needs in here, and I love this. And I started to think like, oh, what does Darcy need? Like, oh, that's really good. Tom's needs to know he belongs, to connect personally and professionally, to be heard and known for the value he brings, and to finish purposefully. Like when you really state out your needs like that, dude, you're stepping into them. That's really beautiful. I really appreciate that. Take it away.
Sure. Yeah. So it's really almost jerking tears out of me just hearing you read what I sent you. Sorry for being so late that I sent you last night or 2 nights ago, whatever it was. Um, so at the beginning of this call, when everybody was just coming in, I was telling how I'm going to Denver, and one of the first things that this group is going to do is get up on stage and speak for 3 minutes. And to some, it's terrifying, and to some, it's exhilarating. And all of this is this person named Amber Vilhauer. She's got a book out called Infinite Impact. And so if you don't know what your needs are, if you don't know what your big why is, if you don't know who your avatar is, and I'll tell you about that too. An avatar is just the person. I think we're all in real estate, but let's just assume that you want to record a video and you want it to appeal to everybody. Typically, what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to say, okay, how do I appeal to everybody? Well, that's the wrong way about going about things. The right way is to actually pare down and pare down and pare down and pare down and focus on a specific person that you're delivering this message to. And so when you're saying this on video or presenting as I am now, I'm not talking to 7 people or 6 people. I'm talking to Lori, who's age 45, divorced, has 2 children. She's a C-level employee, makes a lot of money, and she doesn't like to look wrong or make mistakes. And so what that means to me when I'm speaking to that person is I'm anticipating that they don't want to answer or ask questions, but they want to know what they want to know. So I'll say things like, you may want to know something like this, and they may not want to ask that question. So just to kind of start out, I want to talk about a simple word with profound implications, but not in a way that you might expect, because I've come to realize that why, the question why, a 3-letter word is so much less about identifying an answer to a question and much more about identifying moments of choice. Choices that either propel us forward or when we dwell on why me, why did that, why can't I, they actually hold us back. Think about it. How often do we find ourselves asking questions like, why can't I be more like Darcy or Ethan or Elizabeth or Delaney or Macy or Josie, just to get everybody? Why can't I be more like her? Why can't I achieve what I want to achieve? Well, this constant questioning leaves us trapped in a cycle of doubt and inaction. And as you think about the question, notice that you're just holding yourself back. In fact, your awareness of the present has ceased. You can't be aware of the future, and you're taking yourself back to a time when. Now, whether that was just yesterday, and why did I say that to her, which I made a mistake and said something stupid, or back in when I just got out of college, why did I do this so I didn't make it and get my wings in the Navy? No, that doesn't help you at all. It keeps you back. So all your forward progress stops. All of your steps forward are stopped. And if you've ever been even just roller skating or ice skating and you go and you turn your head, that's how you probably first learned to turn, was by turning your head. And in the same way you ask why, or you say things like, I should have, those are two cuss words in my life. And for example, when I'm teaching classes here at Keller Williams, I don't let them ask why questions. They can say, well, why do you want to sell your house? But beyond that, what's important about that? So instead of asking questions like why, then that Myers and the pastor keep us from moving forward, what if we were to use why as a question that actually sets off an alarm? And this alarm just reminds you that it's time to reset your mental GPS. And what does a GPS do? It asks you where you want to go, how do you want to get there. It asks what and where and how, and it never asks why. It just says, I mean, let's even think about maps, Google Maps. I want to go from here. I want to go from, let's see, whatever falls. I can't think. I used to live in Woodbury, but you want to go from Fort Snelling to the airport. Okay, are you going to walk? Are you going to whatever? So when it comes down to the questions that are really valid, it's what do I want? What am I willing to do to get it? Where am I now? Where do I want to be? And how am I going to get there? Am I going to walk? Am I going to run? Am I going to ride a bike? Am I going to take a car? Whatever it happens. So in my journey, both personally and professionally, I've come to understand that dwelling on why is so less productive than focusing on other things. So here's my proposition when it comes to the use of the word why. It's a matter of resetting your mental GPS, as I've already said. As we navigate our paths, just remember, it's not about identifying reasons to why something happened in the past. It's about figuring out what it is, where you are now and where you want to go, what impact you want to have. And as you're thinking about these questions that you find yourself asking, notice that there's just very little value in why did I do that and should I do that? Because the very essence of you, the reason you may be here today is your goals, your dreams, your aspirations. Those are the things to me that are important to you, and not assigning meaning to something that happened in the past. And the trouble is we get trapped in asking these same questions. So I challenge you, the next time that you find yourself asking why, pause, reset your mental GPS. Maybe you find yourself running into a wall. Well, go find the door and take a step and take another step. And if you fall down, that's okay. Get back up again, because we all fall down. One of the things that I try to affirm is help me get up more times than I fall down. So weeks ago, Darcy and I were talking, and I don't even know how this came to be, but I had told her that I was reading a book, and I've got to look at the title again, just because we're in a different book now. The attributes. And it's funny, sometimes a whole book sticks with you, like there's the one thing, and you get this theme throughout. What's the one thing that I can do such that by doing it makes everything else easier or unnecessary? But this author, Rich Divini, mentioned in one of the middle chapters that one of the things that he did early on was record himself affirming things with music in the background. Now, if you're going to try this, one of the things that you need to do is actually record with music that doesn't have words. Because all of a sudden, if you're listening to Today is a Good Day, and I'll tell you what my affirmations are, but whatever those affirmations are, and all of a sudden you're listening to the tune, you may find yourself going, Mary had a little lamb, or whatever actual song you might be playing in the background, if it has words. So find something that you think is beautiful and put that in the background. And he listened to his affirmations for 13 years before he stopped. So much so that his wife made him, put earbuds in when they came along because he didn't start when there was such thing. But the first thing you need to do when it comes to writing your I am statements is understand what is an affirmation. So this may be a simple request or maybe a simple statement, but an affirmation is two things. It's things that you want to remind yourself of, like, what do I want to be? Who do I want to grow into? What do I want to achieve? But it all is also a reminder or a reaffirmation of who we are and whose we are. So, and I don't want to get into a religious talk, but I'm just going to tell you the things that I read. But the first time I tried this, I was exceedingly skeptical, but I was also in just a rough patch. And it's only been 6 months maybe. And it's amazing the things that happen. So one of the affirmations that I'm just kind of looking down at my notes is, today is a good day. And I mentioned this before, I have good energy. Well, that was preposterous to me. I might go to bed at midnight and I'd wake up at 2 o'clock just having an absolute panic attack about who knows what. I couldn't figure that out. But I started to say things, and I'll just say some of them that I repeat to myself. I am successful. What does that mean? You don't have to define, I make $1,375,924 whatever and 23 cents. You can loosely define things and let the world define what you're going to be. I am publishing 3 YouTube videos every month and 15 Instagram videos, not every month, 3 YouTube videos every week and 15 Instagram videos every week. That hasn't happened for me yet, and it will. Another thing that I affirmed was, I am paid well and often for speaking on other people's stages, teaching, learning, and inspiring. And shit show, let's talk about that for a second. After listening to that for 2 weeks, suddenly I was going, I got to delete that. That's not happening. That's not going to happen. And that very week, Darcy said, hey, you know that I am thing that you talked about? Would you be willing to talk about it on, that's kind of interesting. Heck, say yeah. I mean, find an excuse to say yes. I saw that good dad, Macy Daisy. And so you don't know what's ahead of you. So tomorrow I'm actually speaking for a little bit on this stage where there's going to be 60 to 100 people. I wasn't going to that. I went to a thing by the same author here in Austin in April, and that was just a gift. Well, real estate's been tough for me, and I've got bills, and it wasn't a wise decision for me to go to Denver, so I wasn't going to Denver. And then 10 days ago, I got a message from the author saying, Tom, it won't be the same without you. You need to be here. I'm buying. That's tough. I mean, that's cool. That's awesome. But that's so tough because I think I receive things well. But if you can't tell, I mean, my voice is getting weak thinking about it. And I don't expect stuff like that. But until you choose to do these I am statements, until you choose to change your language, until, using bold laws, change the way you look at things and the things you look at, change your thinking, change your world. Until you choose to be aware of what your thought process is and what it should be, you're going to continue to be the same person. So one of the things that I'm going to speak about tomorrow, and I think I mentioned when at the very beginning, was all of these different events that happened to me. You know, I remember have very distinct memories of um, being very young. I remember sitting in a high chair. And if you remember that, great, but I think most people do not. But I remember sitting and looking out and seeing a cardinal outside the window. And so I very specifically remember Dad saying, "I'll catch you." I'm 10 feet up in the air and I was 3. Um, so anyway, all of these memories. But the biggest thing that I've had is when I went to my therapist. And you know, when I started going to see a therapist, I I had a code word for it. I was going to go get my oil changed. I wasn't going to tell anybody. I sure didn't want Ethan to know about it. I didn't want doing, and I wasn't going to tell Darcy because I mean I thought she was kind of cool, and what would she think of me? And then I realized what a benefit it's been. And so a few weeks ago, maybe a month or 6 weeks ago, I was in there and I was just having a bad day. We all have bad days. And I said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." And he told me to go home and write it down and give all that you don't want to God. And I was like, "Pardon me, but what the hell does that mean?" He said, "Just write it down and listen to what he gives back." And so I wrote all of that stuff down, and it was the most clear message I've ever gotten. And I don't think this is stuff that I can make up. So I gave him my doubt and my debt and my fears and my loneliness and my anxiety. And with everything I heard, he said, "Get up and walk. Take steps towards your challenges. Take steps towards your problems, and you'll have the opportunity to step on them or crush them. But if you choose to continue with your problems and walk with your problems, they're going to be yours for the rest of your life." And that's where the power of these I am statements come in. And that's where the power of knowing who you are comes in. And so there's a book, Instant Impact by Amber Vilhauer, it's a very powerful book, but it's not something I don't think you could do it in a group setting, because I wrote 98 pages from this, and other people wrote everything, all their answers on a single page. But from this came my answers to what my needs are and and I said all that before, but to empower people to overcome their challenges, ignite growth, purpose, and success by knowing, engaging their own strengths, being able to tell people my needs and what I'm good at. So this Strength Finders 2.0 book is very short. It's like 37 pages of reading, and then you take an online test, and then it comes back and it tells you, "You're great at this. Here are your top 5. If you want to pay more, it'll give you all 42 of your attributes." So guess what? Some of the top stuff was surprising to me, and some of the stuff at the bottom was not surprising to me. Like, "Tom, you should not be an accountant." Okay, well, no kidding, because the last time I balanced my checking account was when I opened it. So, I mean, you understand that some of you are just going, "How the heck do you do that?" No, that is just so wrong. But I have listened every morning and every night to myself with music in the background. And what I write is a little bit different than what I listen to because I don't have much room. And this is, just so you know, this is called a 10X planner. It's something that Grant Cardone puts out. It's just convenient for me. At the beginning of the day, you write your goals in my terms, my vernacular. My goals are the things that I want to be. Then you write a quote of the day. Then you write your targets. What are the things that you can knock out this week or next or in the next or today? And then you write your successes, and then you write your goals. So I get up, before I get out of bed, I listen to my affirmations. Then I write this stuff and I figure out what I'm going to do. And then at the end of the day, I write what I did successfully. But notice it's not, "What did I forget to do?" "Well, I said I was going to go to the store, and then I was going to do this, and then all life happened, so I just got a pizza." No, what did you do well? And if you're struggling with identifying what you've done well, remember that you left the house and came back home safely. So you drove well enough to not endanger yourself. It can be that simple, or it can be something as simple as, so I'm just going to read the things that I have, and then I'd love to see what questions you have. One other thing. So I used to say I am debt free because That's what I wanted, was just to be debt free. But then I was reading this other book, so many books. And as I was reading this book, I thought, well, I'm debt free. Okay, I have zero. That'd be great to have no, but I want to be, what do I say? $1 million, $2 million? I couldn't assign a value, but so I changed it to I am prosperous and I have more than enough. I am a blessing and I am blessed, and I bless others. I am successful. I am succeeding on God's path as He holds my right hand. I am guided by the Holy Spirit. I am sharing my strengths. I am publishing 3 YouTube videos and 15 Instagram reels every week. I am enjoying, and some of the stuff is what I know, and some of the stuff is what I want. I am enjoying a 3-day weekend every month and 1 week of vacation every quarter. I am a loving and supportive husband. I'm not dating anybody, and I'm not married. I am physically fit and mentally and spiritually strong. I am a child of God. I am the head and not the tail. I am walking toward my fears and challenges. I compare myself to whom I was yesterday. Now, just briefly on that, you ever been in a meeting with somebody and you heard, oh, I got 10 under contract yesterday and I didn't meet my goal. I was supposed to get 20. And maybe you're brand new in real estate or whatever it is that you do. And so when you learn to compare yourself to whom you were yesterday, suddenly you're taking steps that are noticeable. And you can see that you've actually made progress. Here's the big one. Well, here's a couple. I improve every month over the previous month. I live and work in a clean and organized environment. I'm not going to show you the rest of my office, but just know that that is not the case. Here's the big one. I am grateful in all circumstances. So I used to get these anxiety attacks a lot. And 4 or 5 weeks ago, I woke up in the middle of the night. And if you haven't had one, before I ever had one, I thought, oh, whatever, you weenie. And so now I'm having them. So I woke up and it's like, oh my gosh, am I having a heart attack? I think I'm having an anxiety attack. But I'm going to go to the door and I'm going to unlock the door just in case the paramedics need to come. And I'm going to have a drink of water and I'm going to take a quarter of whatever. I'm going to do all this stuff. And so I was just pissed off about being up at 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning because I had to be up at 5 in the morning to go walk, to go whatever, to meet people and all this stuff. And I was getting mad about being anxious and suddenly said, God, I sure am grateful I'm having this anxiety attack. And I got goosebumps right there at 3 in the morning because I heard myself saying I was grateful for something that I hate. Who wants to get up? And so that was so powerful to me. That was a goosebump moment. And so as I settled down, normally I'd go back to bed, but I had to go and write down this experience in case I forgot it or in case I lost its texture. Here's a big one. I love, honor, respect, cultivate, and grow the me that God created. Or what I say is like my endowed strengths. Because there's always somebody else you'd like to be. Oh, I'd like to be more like her because she has her stuff together. But does she really? Because she always talks about having a shit show or pulling on, whatever. And so that I'm a magnet for referrals, listings, and buyers. I'm paid well and often to speak from other people's stages. I purposefully plan and follow my calendar, and that's getting better and better every day. I am intentionally focused on using my strengths to fulfill my mission and my needs. And so all of this, I'm telling you that you can do. It's very simple stuff. And you just don't know when you're going to break through. So I can't wait until I have consistently 10 transactions. Right now, I can't wait until, I'm closing 3 a month again. So I hope that's gone somewhere. And just know that all this I am stuff, again, I am is reminders, which is a reaffirmation. Oh yeah, that's right. This is who I am and whose I am, whether it's I'm Tom Catlin, son of Joan and Dave, Catlin, or what it is that you want to be. That's where the power is. And it doesn't mean in 2 days' time you're going to suddenly be that, but you're going to be reminded each day. And you're going to know by following a plan what you've accomplished and notice the steps that you've made. I'll give you one more example. Amber, the author that I'm going to go speak with, in front of audience tomorrow, we had a whole group of us on beforehand. We were all talking, and this guy said, I just feel so lost. I feel whatever. And then he had another breath. He was saying, I keep getting these things from LinkedIn, all these solutions that they have, but I know that's not it. And we were able to quickly point out, listen, just because you're not taking that bait, or because you're not taking that bait, is one good choice. And another good choice is you're choosing to be here. So you're taking steps. And so when you feel trapped, and gosh, Darcy, I wish I could remember what you said earlier, but the things that you think, or not that you think, but that you feel, can be defined in so many different ways. You can feel fear, and you can feel excitement. And the next time you feel one, remember what the other feels like. Because there's the excitement in my mind when I hear runners take your mark, set. Holy cow, my adrenaline is going. And that's the same feeling that I have when fear is there. So you can choose how to define these things. And when you choose to define your anxiety, your nervousness as, oh my gosh, that's not fear, that's excitement. I can't wait to get up on the stage tomorrow, even though I don't know how I'm going to end up my speech tomorrow. I'll have that figured out tomorrow. There's just a lot of power in this. And I would hope that one of you maybe has a question or two. But I can tell that you're listening, and I appreciate that, because just as I started to speak, I was going, holy cow, I'm going to speak for 4 minutes. And we look at Darcy and go, now what? But this is a big deal. And so if you're ever in need of, how do I proceed? Ask. So I nearly drowned, and I remembered somebody saying, relax. Do everything you can to be gentle with the water. It'll be gentle with you. And suddenly my legs that were trapped against my head just turned to jelly and went unfurled downstream. And I pulled up and pulled out. And then the rest of that story, just a funny thing is, I'm 20 something, just close to the end of college, and my tube is down in a whirlpool. Well, I got to go get my tube because that was $7. That's too much. So like an idiot, I went and tubed the rest of the way. But I guess that's also getting on the horse. And I could probably have a bunch of one more things, but let's just have this one more. I spoke to the guy that I was floating down the river with. He called me an hour ago because I never thought about his perspective. And he had said, you got to get out. And so he was getting out probably 40 feet to my left. And suddenly I was gone. And suddenly my tube was downstream, just going in a circle. And the funny thing about, well, the great thing is, here I am to talk about it. But the funny thing was, that was the first time I ever heard him cuss. And he hasn't stopped since. Anybody have anything that they want to say or have doubts that I can help you just take a step in the direction towards the person that you want to be?
Has anyone created any of these little statements or the things that kind of help you? These little mantras, these little prayers for yourself? Anybody? Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that my mom, who recently went through, a big career change and a move, a few years back, she had something happen that really increased her level of anxiety, just in general, and especially around her work. And, it seeps into other parts of her life. And one of the things is just like flying, getting ready to fly, like, packing up, going somewhere. And she finds herself getting anxiety about it. And telling herself exactly those words that you said, oh, this isn't anxiety, this is excitement. Because they do feel the same a lot of the time. Like that pure excitement that you have when you're like a kid, like how we all might feel if we were at a Taylor Swift concert in the front row and she was about to grab our hand. Like that might be that same feeling, excitement and fear, or excitement and anxiety, and just naming it out loud and saying, this is what it is. It's excitement. And I'm looking forward to this.
It's kind of funny how some of those emotions that are contradictory sound alike and feel a lot alike. Like laughing can sound like hysterical crying, and like there's a lot of like different anger can, frustration can sound like, oh, delicious something, or, there's a lot of commonalities there. And so it can be easy to change the perception.
What I would say in that, and what I would say to your mom, Macy, is we all have an opportunity to define what we're feeling. And even though we may know we're lying or making something up, your brain, your psyche does not know that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't know negatives. So there's just a funny thing to say about that too. We all know that. We've heard that before. And so when you see a sign as you're driving, don't drive and text. Well, all you really hear is drive and text, and suddenly you're picking up your phone going, oops. So you've got an opportunity. She has an opportunity to control it. And, have her just write stuff down.
I love that. So after Tom had shared this, I am going to share with you guys my very humble. You're probably going to laugh at me because it's really nerdy, very dorky. And some of you who know me fairly well are going to chuckle at some of the things that I have in here. But I wanted to share it with you because I really truly do. When Tom said this idea, I was like, oh, I got to do that. Like, I want to step into the person I am going to become, right? And that starts by talking it out loud right now. So here's my little prayer to myself. Tell me if you can hear it.
Darcy Ray Novak, precious child of creation. You are surrounded by ancestors wise and well in the thousands at all times, all watching, loving, protecting you and those you love. They have special plans for your children, so don't worry. Just love them. That's all you need to do. You are a budgeting genius. You know the value of $1 and use it wisely and cautiously. You are financially free from stress and are building your savings. You are flooded with great people in your life who bring you love and lessons each and every day. Receive, my friend, receive. You are a vessel for Spirit's work, an example of life and love, a sister to all, and a precious child of creation. Give thanks and pray.
So I listen to that every morning and night, Tom, and yeah, it's pretty epic. So I highly recommend for you guys to come up with your own crazy, silly, dorky, fun little
Now,
mantra.
Darcy, let me give you something.
Yeah.
That was powerful. That was good. That had power. And you used words that had they were so descriptive. Fully and I mean, whatever the words, I wish I could think of them, but you had such words that were so descriptive that they had texture, which makes you believe them, which makes me believe them. I thought it was really good. And I could tell just by the way you're speaking at the end, it's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. But look how great you're going to be tomorrow. And look how great you're going to be next month. And look how great you're going to be next year.
I appreciate that. You're a good friend, Tom. Thank you.
Checks in the
Well-
mail, right?
What's that?
You got the money in the mail to me?
Yes. Thank you guys so much for participating. Hopefully you learned something today, took something away. Tom, thank you so much for giving of yourself and your time and sharing with us. So many blessings, you guys. Take care.